learning our medrash today in connection to Sukkos and La'asad Lavai. It's a medrash over here, Yalkut Shmeini, in Remez Tov Kuv Gimel. It's on the second column here, the top of the second column. So this is a pasuk in Yeshaya where it says, Lo yilcha hashemesh oid la'er yoimam. One of the things that the Nevuah here is saying on La'asad Lavai, he made it. One of the Nevuahs that it says on the top of the second column, that it says La'asad Lavai is that the sun won't be the source of light, La'asad Lavai. What's Pshat? Sagt the Medrash, Amr Rab Shimon ben Yochai, Kol Arbaim Shana Shai Yisrael b'Midbar. So the 40 years the Yidden were in the Midbar, le'nitzrach echad mehem, no one needed to rely, le'lo'erachama, not on the light of the sun, by yom, by day, le'lo'erachama b'layla, not on the light of the levana by night, ela ha'avim me'irim hayu. Ella, let's read this again. Ella, rather, ha'avim me'irim, when the clouds, they were surrounded by the Ananei HaKavod. So ha'avim, when these clouds, me'irim hayu, when they were shining, when they were bright, hayu yoidim sheshaka chama. So the Yidden knew that the sun set. Hilbinu, when the Ananei HaKavod were white, when they were not shining, but they were white, hayu yoidim shezarcha chama. So they knew that the sun came up, that the sun shined. Even more so, the Medrash says, Mistakel b'chavis, we're on the top of the second column. Mistakel b'chavis, a person looked at a barrel. The Ananei HaKavod gave off some kind of a light that penetrated, like an X-ray. You can see through a barrel what's inside the barrel. Mistakel b'chavis, v'yidei ma b'toicha. You would know what's inside the barrels. B'tafiach, what's a tafiach? So it says over here, kli ke'en k'deira, some kind of a pot. Thank you. V'yidei ma sheb'toicha. And you would see what's inside the pot. You don't have to open up the pot to check what's for supper that night. Mipnei onon shchine shebeineyam, because of the onon, which is the shchine amongst the Yidden, shenemar le'einei kol beis Yisrael b'chol maseyam. So, they didn't have this. It gave off a certain miraculous light that they were able to see through things. And there was no day, there was no night. Mamish. Yeah. Oh, here comes the key. Then the Medrash says, Af La'asad Lavai kain, and the same thing will be again, La'asad Lavai. Shenemar kumi oiri ki va'oireich. The light is going to come. And it says in the pasuk, the light of the sun will not be the source of your light. Why? Because La'asad Lavai as well, we're going to be surrounded by Ananei HaKavod. So the light that we're going to get is going to be from the Ananei HaKavod. Like then, the Ananei HaKavod was shining, and it was bright, it was white, and it was unbelievable. So La'asad Lavai will be surrounded by Ananei HaKavod again.
Are you teaching this because it's like Sukkot?
Yes, the holiday of Sukkot is upon us. Correct. That's once. There's a few midrashim that say this. Another source to this is based on a pasuk in Yeshaya and Samach something. Yeshaya.
Just laying this for the Torah reason.
La yilchai da shamish la yomim.
Maybe this week,
Could be.
last week.
Could be. Okay, so I don't remember. Could be. Yep. Then in Yeshaya Lamed Hey, in the Targum Yonason, it says also the same thing. There's the famous pasuk that the Rabbi would always quote in the end of Habrengen, when the Rabbi would talk about the Simcha of La'asad Lavai. There's a pasuk, Simchas Olam al Rosham. So what does this mean? The everlasting joy upon your heads. What's this mean, upon your heads? So on the Targum Yonason, on that pasuk it says,
Where's that pasuk?
Yeshaya, Kapitel Lamed Hey, pasuk Yud. So it says there that the Simchas Olam al Rosham means that La'asad Lavai, the Eibusher will redeem Yidden from Galus, and he will put over their head, when he returns them to Eretz Yisrael, Ananei HaKavod, just like he did when he took the Yidden out of Mitzrayim and brought them to Eretz Yisrael then.
This is
Similar to what it says here. So this is two different sources. The Targum Yonason says this on the pasuk, Simchas Olam al Rosham. There will be Ananei HaKavod surrounding Yidden. So the first thing is, when exactly is this going to take place? And what kufa, what time period of Moshiach is this going to take place? As soon as Moshiach comes? Or a later period? There's a lot of different kufas in when Moshiach comes. There's the beginning of the first kufa when Moshiach comes. There's a second kufa later on. The Rabbi in Asicha is machalik that in the first kufa, the Rambam's opinion is Olam kimin hagin hayik, no changes in nature at all. In the second kufa, then the Rambam agrees that all the nevuos that talk about miracles will be fulfilled. And then there's yet a later kufa, which is Tchias HaMesim, where regarding that kufa, the Gemara tells us mitzvahs betelis lasalavai. Mitzvahs will be bottled then. Regarding which kufa is this Medrash saying this? It's not 100% clear here. In the Targum Yonason and other places, it's mashma that just like the Eibishter brought the Yidden out of Mitzrayim and they were in the midbar for 40 years surrounded by Anani HaKavod, the Eibishter will bring Yidden to Eretz Yisrael in Anani HaKavod like it was then. There's actually Medrashim that it says, again, I'm not sure if all these things are going to be in the sky in Kipshuta or not, but there's a Medrash that says that just like then, the Eibishter brought Yidden into a midbar, and then from the midbar to Eretz Yisrael, the Oster as well, Yidden are going to come to Eretz Yisrael through a midbar. So we're going to be spending time in the midbar again before you go to Eretz Yisrael. Whether that means Kipshuta, or how long are we going to be in midbar, and what's the story with this. So if we're going to be in the midbar again, so I guess in the midbar, we will be surrounded by Anani HaKavod again.
40 years?
Hope not 40 years.
People say like 40 years, they made up this thing.
Yeah, there's a kufa I also heard that the first kufa
As
is
a
40
kid,
years. Each of the kufas you mentioned, I also heard 40 years.
No, I don't know if there's a solid source for that.
Maybe it comes from this.
I don't
Midbar.
Yeah.
This I know is not terrible.
So look, the Rambam, as I said before, holds that there's going to be no shinuyim in Minhagi Ha'olam. There'll be no miracles until a much later stage. So according to the Rambam, this nevuah of the Anani HaKavod Lasad Lavai is going to be at a later time period. It's not going to be in the beginning. That's according to the Rambam. According to other opinions, it's going to happen earlier on. Could still happen this year.
Amen.
Could have the Anani HaKavod surrounding us. But the big discussion becomes regarding two mitzvahs. Specifically, there are two mitzvahs that the Mefarshim talk about. How are we going to fulfill them if there are going to be Anani HaKavod again? First mitzvah is, before you get to Sukkah, the first mitzvah is Kiddush HaChaydish. In order to be Mekadosh HaChaydish, you have to see the moon. If you're surrounded by Anani HaKavod, so you don't see no moon. Especially the way the Medrash describes it over here, there's no sun, there's no moon. The day and the night is defined by the clouds, when it was shining, when it was white. So there's no Kiddush HaChaydish b'chlal. So how are we going to fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChaydish l'asalavi? One of the things that it says clearly is that b'zman hazeh we do Kiddush HaChaydish based on cheshbon. No Kiddush HaChaydish al pi ariyah l'asalavi. The Kiddush HaChaydish al pi ariyah will return. So it's going to return l'asalavi. How though? If we're going to be surrounded by Anani HaKavod? It's one question. Then there's a question about Sukkah. How are we going to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Sukkah Lasad Lavai if we're going to be surrounded by Anani HaKavod again? It has to be under the sky. A Sukkah b'toich Sukkah is possible.
The truth is, that's not a kid. It's a cloud.
The cloud depends what kind of cloud. The clouds of Anani HaKavod were not the regular clouds.
I don't know, I think
Sukkah b'toich Sukkah. Okay, it's a shayla. How are we going to be making a sukkah? So, when you get to Kiddush HaChaydish, so Rabbeinu B'chaye in Parshas Boy brings from Rabbeinu Chananel that the Yidden, when they were in the Midbar, because they were surrounded by the Anani HaKavod, were never Mekadosh the Chaydish al Piriyah. For the 40 years, they made the Kiddush. Correct. But they didn't do it al Piriyah. Eibusha showed Moshe Rabbeinu the Chaydish Hazelachem Kazer Re'eh Kadesh Chaydish Nisan. By the time Chaydish Ir came around, they couldn't do it. They did not do Kiddush HaChaydish al Pi until they came into Eretz Yisrael. One second, we'll get to the Korban Pesach. Just a second. So Rabbeinu Chananel actually goes a step further. From this, he says, there's a raya that the Iker mitzvah of Kiddush HaChaydish is the Kiddush HaChaydish al Pi Cheshbon. There are two ways how we calculate the new month. There's the cheshbonis we make, which the Rambam describes by Arichas and Hilchas Kiddush HaChaydish, and then there's Eidim that see the new moon. Which is the ikir of the mitzvah? the way we do it today is sort of b'di'evet, and the Ikke mitzvah is supposed to be that a bezdin in Eretz Yisrael that has smicha, makes the Kiddush HaChedesh al Piyariyah, or the other way around. No, what we're doing is the Iker. Then, when you're able to do it up here, Eidim, with Riyah, you do it also with Eidim that see the Chaydish.
They had to make a cheshbon to make sure that the Eidim are saying proper things.
Right, so you always, it's
So
true,
there's always a
even
cheshbon
when you're
involved.
doing Al Piyariyah, you always also, the Bezdin has to know the Cheshbainis. But the question still is, what's the Iker mitzvah, the Cheshbon or the
Just
Riyah?
pointing out the Chiddush of maybe the cheshbon being the Iker is not as big
As a Chiddush.
because they always needed a cheshbon.
Right, so here Rabbeinu Bechai says, if in the Midbar, for 40 years, by Moshe Rabbeinu, they never did a Kiddush HaChedesh al Piyariyah, only al Pi Cheshbon, there's a raya that the Iker mitzvah is the Cheshbon. The Eidim is one way how to figure out when the new moon was Nailad. It's just, but the Iker mitzvah is to make the Cheshbon, to know when the new moon is going to be Nailad. If you have Eidim that saw it, you have Eidim that saw it. If you don't have Eidim that saw it, you make the Cheshbon. That's the Iker mitzvah. That's what Rabbeinu Bechai says. Sorry, he brings it in the name of Rabbeinu Chananel. Yeah, from the early Rishonim. So you mentioned before Korban Pesach. So there's a Sefer Zer Avram, and he says that this is taka the reason why in the Midbar they didn't make the Korban Pesach besides one time when it was Apiyah Dibur, there was a Gzeres HaKosov, there should be Makrivet. He brings from Psukim that you see that the mitzvah of Korban Pesach is connected to Kiddush HaChedesh. Like you see Bamis in the beginning of the Parsha, that it has to be Dafki, he says Kiddush HaChedesh al Piriyah with a Bezdin, and then this Korban Pesach. And since they didn't have Kiddush HaChedesh al Piriyah, so there was no Korban Pesach. This is Rabbeinu Chananel. And there's also a medrash that Kemat clearly says what Rabbeinu Chananel says. The medrash says that really there was no day, there was no night, there was no months, there was no, when the Yidden were in the Midbar. Elamai, the medrash says, so then the clouds, the Anani HaKavod, they said there was an Amod Eish and the Amod Anon. The Amod Eish was there for at night, and the Amod Anon was there by day. So the Medrash says an interesting thing. The only reason they needed the Amud Eish and Amud Anon is because for Zovan and Zavais, you have to know when's day, when's night, to know B'negeh, to Tumah, the Oinus, you have to know. So they had to have the Amud Anon and Amud Eish to say when's day and when's night. But that's what they relied on for the day and for the night. Nothing else. That's what it's about. Okay, could be. Yeah, I hear you. When's Alaysa Shachar? When's this? When's that? But okay, but for some reason the Medrash says Dafka Zavan and Zavis. Yeah. Okay, so according to this Shitta, it comes out there was no Kiddush HaChedesh when Yidden were in the Midbar. So if that's the case, if the Medrash says Lasad Lavai, the Amadan is going to surround Yidden again, so there'll be no Kiddush HaChedesh, Lasad Lavai either. It's maybe in an earlier Tkufa, when there'll be no Anani HaKavod, there will be, but later, once the Anani HaKavod will come to surround Yidden, no more Kiddush HaChedesh. As they come tais. Yeah.
This Kiddush HaChedesh, but not Apiriyah.
Correct. But then there's another shit. There's a Tosefta in the beginning of Rosh Hashanah that basically says Befedish not like this. The Tosefta there is talking about Rosh Hashanah, and it's talking about the Mon regarding Rosh Hashanah. We know that when it came to Rosh Hashanah, so Rosh Hashanah is the only Yom Tov that there's 2 days Rosh Hashanah even in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because even in the Beis HaMikdash, since they didn't know exactly when Rosh Hashanah is going to be, so if the Eidim didn't come later on in the day, they made that day Kodesh, because the Eidim may still come, and it'll be Nizbar that day was already Rosh Chodesh, and the next day Kodesh. So the Tosefta says that the same thing is true regarding already this whole thing of 2 days is already in the Midbar. In the Midbar, so we know that the Mon on Shabbos and Yontif there was no Mon. It came down for 2 days, for Friday and Shabbos. Or if it was a Yontif, it came down for the Erev Yontif and for Yontif. But Yontif is usually only 1 day. Menat Torah is Yontif is 1 day. But the Medrash this says, B'negei to Rosh Hashanah, even in the Midbar already, if the Eidim came late on in the day, they made that day holy and the next day holy as well. Umimela, the Mon lasts for 3 days. Sometimes the Mon this is where the Mon would last for 3 days, even though usually we know it only lasted 2 days, but in Rosh Hashanah, certain years, the Mon lasted 3 days. Adkan is what it says in the Tosefta. Interessante Tosefta. Derech Agav, I saw a point Vashkacha Pratis a week ago. I'm not remember where I saw this. That the Rebbe has a whole kira when exactly this inyan of Rosh Hashanah 2 days began. At what kufa did it begin? Oh, it's a sikh. It's a mugadig sikh actually in Chelik Yutes Rosh Hashanah. So the Rebbe there says that it began in the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash by Ezra, right in the beginning of the second Beis Hamikdash. But over here in the Medrash it says that already in the Midbar with the Mon they had Rosh Hashanah 2 days. So the pshat is maybe that as a dava kavua, maybe in the second Beis Hamikdash they only had it as a dava kavua every year that they established 2 days when the Midbar was only sometimes. I don't know, but here the Medrash says this when you get to the Mon. What do you see from this? That even in the Midbar they were Makadesh the Chaydish al Piyah Re'iyah, even though they were surrounded with the Anani HaKavod. Klar. Not like what Rabbeinu Chananel says, and not like what it's mashma in other Midrashim. So how? How are they Makadesh the Chaydish al Piyah Re'iyah? So the answer is Pashut. I mean, how? They walked out of the Anani HaKavod. They walked out of the Anani HaKavod and they waited to see the new moon to be Makadesh the Chaydish al Piyah Re'iyah. Pashut. It's actually a shtickle pella how you talking. You have a mitzvah and they're surrounded by Anani HaKavod. What's the big deal? Why is Rabbeinu Chananel saying that they couldn't be Mekadesh HaChadosh for 40 years of Piyariya because they're surrounded by Anani HaKavod?
Because you're able to live.
Yeah, sure. No, they were able to leave. There's by Muhammad Amalek right in the beginning. It says that Amalek attacked the Yidin Hanachshalam Acharecha, which were outside the Mon, the Anani HaKavod. You were able to leave. It was on top. It was all on the bottom. No, it was on the bottom. The top. There was six sides. That's one of the.
There was 2 in the front.
Right, and that's one of the questions. That's one of the questions why we don't make Anani HaKavod also on the floor. Why we don't make a special floor? Because but a floor in a sukkah. Yeah, it's one of the questions that's added. The place can ask. Kapanim. Yeah, but we don't make a special floor, especially Menik Chabad. We don't make a special floor for the sukkah. It's not a chelik of the mitzvah sukkah to make up a special floor out of a certain material for the sukkah. Okay, so b'kitzur, you have 2 shittas b'negei to Kiddush HaChaydish, which is relevant b'negei to the Kiddush HaChaydish, L'asad Lavai, so be a Kiddush HaChaydish or not. Now, b'negei to sukkah, so the Rebbe once spoke about this in a sikha. Before I get to Sukkah, one more prat when you get Kiddush HaChaydish. So it was a Fabrengen Achron Shal Pesach Tovshim Mem Daled that the Rebbe spoke about the Kiddush HaChaydish L'asad Lavai, that there's going to be a problem for a different reason. Because there's the Nevuah that says V'hoya Eira Lavana Kaira Chama, that L'asad Lavai the Lavana will be as strong as the Chama. It won't be the way it is Bizman Hazeh, that there's a Neilud Lavana and it's relying on the light of the sun, and therefore the cycle and it goes. It's gonna have its own light and as strong as the sun today, so there won't be b'chlal Meilad Alavana.
Cycle up and down.
No Meilad Alavana. No cycle of the moon of the. So what's the pshat that L'asad Lavai will be Kiddush HaChaydish b'chlal? That's what the Rebbe spoke about. So the Rebbe then said that this inyan that the moon will be as strong as the sun, V'ayayir Lavana Karacham, will be in a later tkufa, mamish after Tchias HaMesim in the time of Mitzvahs B'Teilis L'asad Lavai, but not in the earlier tkufa. So you see that the Rebbe is trying to explain that L'asad Lavai there will be Kiddush HaChaydish. Without Anani HaKavod, you'll walk out of the Anani HaKavod, however it'll be, but there's going to be Kiddush HaChaydish al pi Re'iyah L'asad Lavai. Now, when I get to Sukkah. So regarding Sukkah, so first of course the question is, were Yidden Mekayim Mitzvah Sukkah when they were in the Midbar? So there was a Sikha that the Rebbe spoke about, this Pashas Tetzav, Tovshim Mem Zayin. It's Moga also, and the Rebbe said then, it's not Mastaver that Yidden built Sukkahs while they were in the Midbar, for 2 obvious reasons. Number 1, the Rebbe says, the whole mitzvah of Sukkah is a Zeicher for the Anani HaKavod. No, they're inside the Anani HaKavod. Was machst da Zeicher? You're sitting in the Anani HaKavod. I mean, Agam, you could argue, so what? I mean, when Yidden left Mitzrayim, they also ate matzah, morer, Pesach. All the mitzvahs we have today, they were Makayim then. Hagam, today we all do it. Matzah zushon, oechom al shum ma. But the Pile, they had the mitzvah to fulfill it. B'shas says, well, there would be.
Also, there's a reason because they needed mitzvahs.
Okay, could be they didn't have any mitzvahs. Okay, but there was. I mean, it's not necessarily a stira, but the Rebbe says it's not mistaver. It's not mistaver that they were Makayim the mitzvah sukkah if the whole thing is Zeichel Anani HaKavod. And then the Rebbe adds also, if they're inside the Anani HaKavod, how can they build a sukkah? It's not under it's not under the stars. They can't build a kosher sukkah inside the Anani HaKavod. So, and over here, it's much more difficult to say what we said before regarding Kiddush HaChedesh, just walk out of the Anani HaKavod. The whole Klal Yisrael went out of the Anani HaKavod and built sukkahs out of the Anani HaKavod. So therefore the Rebbe says it's not Mustafa B'chlal that they built a sukkah. Even more so, if you look in the Psukim, you have a Chumash HaYikra here quickly. Where are the Chumashim in this show? Right behind you, there's Chumashim there. Yeah, Chumash HaYikra. This is something that the Rebbe speaks about also in a Sikha. It's a very interesting thing in Parshas Emor, which is the parsha that it speaks about the Yomim Tovim. When it comes to all the Yomim Tovim, the Torah writes the Yomim Tovim, the dates of the Yomim Tovim, and as soon as it writes the Yomim Tovim, for example, by Pesach, Chamisha Yitzay Yom L'Chodesh Hazeh, Chag HaMatzos L'Hashem, and it immediately says in the same pasuk, Shivas Yomim Matzos Techelu, Sheep Matzos 6 days. Each one of the Yomim Tovim, it says the date, and it says right away the mitzvah that you should fulfill. Comes L'Moshe Rosh Hashanah, Chodesh Shvi B'Echad L'Chodesh, Zichron Teruah. Comes Oster L'Chodesh, Yom Kippur, right away, V'nisim Es Nafshe Seichem. Mitamal comes to Sukkot, doesn't work that way. It says B'Chamisha Seyam L'Chodesh Shvi Ezeh Chag HaSukkos Shivas Yom L'Hashem. There's a Chag HaSukkos. It doesn't say to build a sukkah. It doesn't say anything. And then it says weiter B'Chamisha Seyam L'Chodesh Shvi B'Aschem Esuas. Then afterwards, later, a few psukim later, like 5 psukim later, it says L'Kachtem L'Chem B'Yom HaRishon Pri Yitzad V'Kapis Tvarim V'Yitzad. And then later, after that, it says, Basukas Teishu Shivas Yamim. Much later. It doesn't say right away, Chag HaSukkos L'Hashem, Basukas Teishu Shivas Yamim. There's a hefsek of like 7 psukim when it comes back to Basukas Teishu Shivas Yamim. Karbonis, yeah. It says the Dalad Minim, the Karbonis, different things. But it doesn't say right away to sit in the sukkah. It comes back to the sukkah later, Basukas Shen. There's a Sikh Chelik of Beis where the Rebbe talks about this Inyan. So some of Farshim say the pshat is because when they were in the midbar, they didn't have the mitzvah really to sit in the sukkah then, right? So when the Eibush was saying the mitzvah then to the Yidden, speaking to them about the sukkahs, so the mitzvah is to bring the karbanis of sukkahs, the dalad minim, like the famous medrash that it's always brought that Moshe Rabbeinu sent a shliach to Italia Shal Yavan to get an esrig, and they were Mekayim the Dalad Minim in the midbar. Although, by the way, there are those that hold it they weren't Mekayim Dalad Minim in the midbar. But we have the famous part that Moshe Rabbeinu was Mekayim the Dalad Minim. And the sukkah says last because then the taka didn't have to do it right away. Today we do mitzvah, we sit in the sukkah. But you see clearly a shinui in the Seder of the psukim here. It's very, very violent, it's very sticks out. Another interesting thing is the material of the schach, that it has to be made dafka from something which is gidulei min haaretz and something which is whatever the different dinim that you learn out what a schach has to be made out of, right? Not makabel tumah. It's learned out from the asbacham yigarnacham yikvecha, which is a pasuk in Parshas Re'eh, which the Yidden were told this psukim 40 years later, whatever, the end of the 40 years when they were about to come to Eretz Yisrael. So the Mefarshim asked, wait a minute, if they had to build sukkahs every year in the midbar, they didn't have the halacha of what they build sukkahs out of metal schach. They didn't have the halacha yet what to build a sukkah with. What were they building their sukkahs with? So again, Yeshayimrim, that they didn't make any sukkahs. They made their sukkah takeh. This is a tzivu when they're going to go into Eretz Yisrael. Interessant. But then there's another shitta, very interesting. Rab Shlomo Kluger is a tshuva sefer, a binyan shleimer. Rab Shlomo Kluger says, no, the Yidden befeidish sat in sukkahs even in the midbar. What was their sukkah? The Anani HaKavod. And he says the Anani HaKavod, it's not only that we make a sukkah today, Zeichel Anani HaKavod. The Anani HaKavod is a kosher sukkah. The sukkah has to be built from a davar shegidulei min haaretz. It grows from the ground. What's a cloud? A cloud is ve'ed yalam min haaretz. It gathers the mist from below and it goes up. So that's what the Anani HaKavod does. He says it's a kosher sukkah. That was the sukkah of the Yidden. And he says, if you look in the pasuk, it says, "Basukkos teishu shivas yamim." It says an interesting diuk. It doesn't say bis sukkos. It says basukkos. When it says ba, it's this sukkah. It's like almost like it says with a heya yidiyah behasukkos. Why does it say basukkos? So he says, Eibush was telling them, you're sitting in a sukkah. This is a kosher sukkah. Walls, Nani HaKavod, which is kosher schach. Elamai, the Habish is telling them, in this sukkah that you're sitting anyways in a whole year, during sukkahs, it's a mitzvah that you should sit in it and eat in this sukkah. But that was the mitzvah of sukkah that they had, the Ananei covered itself. Not that they were pot and they didn't do it. This is the sukkah.